Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good afternoon everybody. Militiaman and Crew is here, and we have the wonderful Wally, who's finally made an appearance, and I think he wants something. I'm not sure if he wants me to keep talking, or singing, or dancing, but anyway, he wants me to let him go. Yeah, now that Wally's probably going to be in the background, everybody, just let him play. There's a new article out that talks about the Al Raffidain implementation of the comprehensive banking system in 40 branches. We saw this yesterday, but they wanted to make sure everybody was reminded about that today. So Raffidain Bank announced Saturday that the implementation of the comprehensive banking system in 40 branches, and basically that's all it really states, is that they're just a friendly reminder that they're ready for showtime. So that's interesting. The next article we were going to talk about, it says that for the first time, Iraq was chosen to chair the group of 77 and China at the United Nations. Interestingly enough, there's like 134 different countries, but there's the largest meeting ever for a group of this large getting together, which is a total of about 77 countries. And Iraq was chosen to chair the group for the first time, so they take over the presidency of that for this particular year, I guess. It says Iraq will provide all the elements for success for this presidency, which is the first for Iraq since the establishment of the group, as Iraq was one of the founding countries 60 years ago. So this is a big deal, and they, after 60 years, they get a tap on the shoulder to have the presidency, all at a time when they're about ready to go hit the international stage. I think what a better way to do it is to be involved with that many countries at once, and possibly to celebrate their new sovereignty. Let's see what they have to say. It says at the end of the meeting, the resolution was unanimous. So this meeting they just had, it says at the end of the meeting, the resolution was unanimously adopted to support the Republic of Iraq to assume the presidency of the group of 77 and China, as the member states offered congratulations to Iraq and expressed their readiness to support it in its tasks during this important presidency. So they obviously have an interest in what Iraq's about ready to do, and that is to go international, as far as the tea leaves I read will suggest anyway. So let's see how far that goes. That's coming up, I guess, and that's a good thing. There is there's going to be supposedly, again, distribution of Iraqi retirees' salaries tomorrow on Sunday. Why do I bring this up again? Because we've heard it time and time again. Maybe there's going to be something different this coming Sunday, which is tomorrow. A responsible source, so they don't tell you who, but they say at least the person's responsible, says on Saturday that the distribution of retirees' salaries throughout Iraq, except for the Kurdistan region, will be tomorrow on Sunday. And then the salaries of the civilian and military retirees for the month of September will be distributed tomorrow, after the funding is completed by the concerned authorities. So they're waiting for funding. So that means funding is the final stage of clearing money to be spent. That's how I see it. I think I got that right. So anyway, they're not getting it until after it's funded, and they will probably, I'm hoping, they're not going to fund these salaries at 1,310 to the dinar. Hopefully we'll find out tomorrow if that's the case or not. Tomorrow is the 1st of September, so let's see what happens. I think it looks promising. However, everybody is kind of on pins and needles these days, because they're showcasing Iraq like in no other ways. All these different big names that are involved in helping Iraq do the things that she's been doing and finishing is just truly amazing. Some of the biggest names in the world that are working with Iraq, as you'll see. It's fascinating. So it says here, after the success of the recent negotiations in Washington, an expert identifies indicators of a decline in the demand of the dollar. So it says financial economic researcher Ala Jaloub Al-Fahad confirmed today, which is Saturday, August 31st, that the central bank succeeded in during the recent negotiations in Washington in diversifying the basket of commercial currencies, indicating that this will lead to a significant decrease in the demand for the dollar. It says that this meeting with discussions with the Central Bank of Iraq during the past hours, sounds like it's today, and the U.S. Federal Reserve and U.S. Treasury, which lasted for 3 days. So they're saying, okay, they've given you the information today, but the time that they had spent lasted for 3 days. It says 13 Iraqi banks entered into direct foreign correspondence remittances, and diversified the currency basket. So if you guys think about it for a little bit, let that sink in. Commercial currencies, and with the Iraq dinar, they're not going to do that at 1310 as far as I can tell. It says explain that there will be commercial actions in the UAE dirham, the Indian rupee, the Chinese yuan, and this gives the Iraqi government flexibility in diversifying the basket of commercial currencies. So it almost sounds like they've had currency swaps already. They probably already moved money, so that they have that in place, so that when things change, everybody's going to be ready to do business with Iraq. There will be commercial transactions. I said that. It says here, though, sorry about that. It says the dollar is currently the master of commercial transactions, because that's true at the moment, as it's the only source of oil revenues sold in dollars, and the reserves of the Central Bank of Iraq are in US dollars, which is true. And they have a lot of them. I think they have like 18 months worth, whereas most countries don't have not even close to that. Could be a little over the kill on that, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty big. And for this reason, it's the basic currency for foreign trade. Well, the dollar is, for that reason, is the basic currency for foreign trade. No argument there. It says after diversifying the basket of foreign currencies for foreign trade, there will be a decrease in the issue of pressure on the dollar. And most of the demand for the dollar currently is not a local demand, but rather a demand from neighboring countries due to the sanctions on those countries. And this demand will decrease significantly after diversifying the basket of currencies in foreign trade transactions. Well, there's not going to be such a demand in Iraq if they're not using the dollar so much, because they're going to be using the dinar. That's my take on it. The participation of these 13 banks in the external transfer indicating that these steps comes with efforts and support from economic growth. So they have reasoning for it, economic growth, and to what? Expand the horizons of international cooperation with, don't let the drum beat too loud, but it is global markets. So expand the horizons of international cooperation with global markets. And it basically is going to use those, the euro, the Chinese yuan, Indian rupee, the UAE dirham, etc. And Iraqi banks are basically looking to be running efficiently with foreign transfers. The 13 banks in correspondence and with diversified currency basket within a diversified currency basket is my view how it reads. Iraq's about to use their own currency, in my view, along with the aforementioned basket. So will they be doing that at 1310 all of a sudden out of the blue after 20 years? I don't think so. So that's a pretty good indicator that we're I don't know, as Pompey Peter says, we're knocking them bandy. So I think that's exactly where Iraq is right now. So here's an article. The entry of Kurdish traders in the dollar selling platform contributed to reducing the exchange rate. Jihan Nawar Al-Saidi at the university says today that August 31st, it says there is an entry of traders from the Kurdistan region to the official dollar selling platform. And these traders benefited from obtaining the dollar at the official exchange rate instead of buying from parallel markets, black market, illegal market, that are witnessing higher prices. Okay, it says this flow of dollars to the market contributed significantly to increasing supply, which led to the reduction of the price. So it goes on to say that they point out that rumors, if you will, about possible changes in the exchange rate prompted many to sell the dollar at low prices for fear of future declines, which increased the pressure on the dollar price. So here's the Kurds coming out ahead of Baghdad telling you about rumors and that how they're selling their dollars cheap because they want to get back into the dinar effectively. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets around, word gets around fast. I think there were some people on the internet talking about Egypt, talking about other places in the world that have been vocal about communications. There's even been some buzz that Iraq has taken some time. They've been bragging about their non-oil resources, and all of a sudden they said that they shut it down for travel and potentially their borders. So one of the items that we talked about the other day with the Turkmenistan model is they needed to contain currency movement at a time when they change and adjust things, just like the counterfeiting. They want to really tighten that up because it could very well be damaging to a currency reform process. So they're really tightening up at this time. And basically, if some of these things are true, because some of these folks are literally from different countries, but they speak fluent Arabic, and they speak the language in different dialects in Iraq, but whatever. Bottom line is that they have people on the ground that they can communicate with, and they're very excited. And they kind of triangulate with some of the other stories that are people have that are out there that are talking about the communication. I would say that al-Sudani's meeting and with the Tunisia and Egypt are really important because they have economic barriers and trade to deal with, and they're making headwinds on using them too. The Pakistan person that I talked to, he says that there was about 100 to 150,000 people from his country that have not fled or have left to go to Iraq for what? To get jobs, because the environment is hot, and they're again, if you're not in now, they may have closed you out for a short period of time because of the necessary need to tighten up those borders. So they don't want money coming in and out, if that's how I read it, if that's correct. So anyway, keep that in mind. The dollar exchange rate in the parallel market will remain high than the official price due to the lack of solutions by the central bank to do remittances. I think that that's about ready to change. I'm not so sure that that last paragraph is accurate to this point, but we'll see. Central Bank of Iraq is required to find quick solutions and procedures for these traders, especially small traders who have almost daily trade with Iran, Syria, and some other countries banned from dealing in dollars. So they're specifically targeting the smaller traders that are not on the platform and that they're dealing outside of sanctions. So I'm assuming they're going to have some problems in the near future. So that's just another one that's out there today that's in support of Iraq doing what they said they're going to do, and that is to, I think, delete the Zeros project and create an environment where al-Sudani stated that the dinar is going to be stronger than the dollar. I think that's going to hold true. This article here is Central Bank announces results of the New York meetings. Well, those New York meetings, happened to have been a few days ago. I'm not sure exactly, but they said that Al-Awlaq was going to be speaking with the U.S. Federal Reserve and Treasury on the 26th. Today's the 31st. And then they said the delegation was there from the 26th to the 29th. So a lot of things happened. And who were they talking to? It says the central bank announced yesterday, Friday, the results of the visit of the delegation headed by the governor of the central bank, Ali Moshan Al-Awlaq. He didn't say with, they said it was headed by. Okay, so anyway, that's which they lasted from the 26th to the 29th of August. That's, to me, how it reads is that the delegation was there during that time frame. It says a high-level negotiating delegation headed by Governor Al-Awlaq held a series of intensive meetings in New York City, which included talks with the U.S. Treasury Department, the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank, in addition to meetings with a group of companies like Visa, MasterCard, and MoneyGram. Look, those three companies right there are electronic payment systems. They're international electronic payment systems, as well as banks like Citibank. We all heard about Citibank in the past. Even goes back to many, many years. JP Morgan, of course, we've seen them doing business. They cleared the digital dollar, for instance, back in 2013, not 2013, 2018, I think it was. But anyway, they practiced with the Buna platform, and the Buna platform has been even modified, that we know. So ultimately, yes, the JP Morgan and the Buna platform are probably still in the game. Citibank still in the game, as well as international auditing companies, KPMG, Ernst & Young, K2, Oliver Wyman. I talked about reputational risk. These guys are the biggest in the world. They're smart. They get into things. They don't make mistakes typically. They don't. Reputational risk is very important, just like I said with the banks. If you get tainted in the banking industry and you lose your good reputation, it could be, as we say, curtains. Bad for business. All right. Participants in the meeting praised the significant transformations of the central bank. Okay, so they got kudos for what they've done. It says these significant transformations achieved by the central bank represent an unprecedented achievement at the country level, as the bank has made remarkable progress in the procedures for controlling foreign transfers, cash sales of the U.S. dollar currency, which led to the improvement of regulations, policies, and procedures in accordance with international and local standards. International and local standards. So what are they doing? They're enhancing transparency and covering foreign trade and providing protection for the banking and financial sectors for the risks of money laundering, terrorist financing, and financial crimes. You've heard all this before, so you can tell that these guys have studied it. They believe what they're seeing, that they believe what they were doing. They did not come in if Iraq was not doing this. Who is at the helm with the Central Bank of Iraq? He got a lot of bad press recently. People were trying to get rid of him. Well, he's probably doing such a good job, they don't like it. They didn't like it, and they wanted him out. Because why? Because the cash cow, which is a parallel market, makes them billions, and they just aren't going to have that anymore. It's that time is over. And so obviously that's just where we're going with this. It says, a meeting between the officials of the Central Bank of Iraq with its international partners by the end of this year on the major transformation and the termination of the electronic platform for external remittances and replacing them with direct banking relations between Iraq banks and the network of international correspondent banks. I'm sorry, you guys, but they've already done this. They've already done this. I'm not buying it. It's my opinion, but I'm not buying that we're waiting until the end of the year for them to finish this to the last minute. No way. They've come way too far, way too many things happening, and they've already completed all this. We've known about the correspondent banks being hooked up for a long period of time. You can come into Patreon, you can look that up. Just use correspondent banks and see what you can find. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised that I'm right. It says, the central bank, all of this will allow the Central Bank of Iraq and Federal Reserve to exercise their supervisory roles from executive procedures. In other words, they're going to take themselves out of the equation. They're not going to need to have to do any more work with these guys. Why? Because the correspondent banks are going to work directly through this platform with one another and Iraq's banks. So the banks normally don't, the reserve banks don't normally do this type of work, but once they're done, they'll do what they normally do. They're probably going to be out there in the background moving money like they normally do, and move that money where needed when trading foreign investments and from the import-export side of things as far as the money is concerned. It says the repercussions, it says, as this transformation will have an important repercussions in the stability, fluidity, and transparency of the country's foreign trade financing operations, noting that it aims to achieve the required stability in exchange rates, which will in turn enhance the efficiency of the financial system in Iraq. That's a big statement. Will enhance the efficiency of the Iraqi financial system in Iraq. Well, isn't that one of the things that al-Sudani talked about back in September of 2023? Iraq was going to be upgrading and being a safe haven, if you will, for the financial system of not only Iraq and the world. That's what they did. Who was talking about that? JP Morgan was, and Iraq. Okay. They were going to bring confidence, if you remember, in the meeting in Davos, right? Davos. That's what they were doing. They named it Restoring Confidence. Iraq was involved in that. We've been over it a couple of times. It says now that the meetings in New York City also dealt with the mechanisms the mechanisms of expanding the network of international correspondent banks, like I just mentioned, and qualifying Iraqi banks to meet the necessary requirements to open their accounts with international correspondent banks, with the aim of enabling them to complete their financial transactions, whether they're through foreign transfers in the US dollar or other foreign currencies. So in other words, when they talked about the UAE, the dirham, the euro, the yuan, etc., right? It also includes the dollar. So Iraq is going to be part of that basket of currencies. I'm fairly certain, you guys, that what they're openly discussing to the world, that Iraq is going to hit the stage, okay? And fascinating, I didn't bring it up, I have it, and you guys can come in and see a piece that I did on a blogger's post in Patreon patreon.com/MM and crew. You guys can find us there, and you can find this article, and I think you'll look at, if you come on in and see it, it'll say scam alert. So take a peek at that and know that this anonymous blogger right out the gate wouldn't even post his name. I'm surprised that the Iraqi Business News would publish it, but they did, and you have to ask yourself, why? Why would they do that? Timing. It almost looks like a regurgitated file from probably 2016, 2018 that they put back out again under the guise of a guest blogger. I think it's funny, but anyway, the article, we were able to discount it quite heavily, and probably really accurately to some degree. So anyway, we just took it kind of lightly, but sometimes people read things like that and take it serious. You should know what you own. You should be comfortable in what you own, and that's what Militiaman and Crew bring. We bring information so that you can feel comfortable with your investment, and hope to look forward to a reality, that is Iraq to represent a real effective exchange rate that they haven't done for 20 years. And I think we're about there. So central bank contracts with international auditing firm in New York, and this is a real brief. It's just going to reiterate a little bit of the stuff that I went over, but here again, it's today. The Iraqi delegation, headed by the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq, who is Ali Moshan al-Alak, discussed during its visit to the United States the use of electronic payment cards and payment, POS, right, and ways to organize and stimulate their use in line with Iraq's move towards electronic payments. Basically, what's it going to be for? To accommodate the significant increase in citizens and their use of these cards. I think they're probably going to be using the cards a heck of a lot more because it's convenient. They don't have to carry around valuable currency so much because they can use a card, and which is probably going to be very safe and secure. So it says the parties gathered and praised the important steps in strengthening the banking sector reforms, the most important of which is the contract with the Iraq Central Bank delegation that concluded with the company Oliver Wyman, another same company, to conduct a comprehensive review of the conditions of Iraqi banks, especially banks that were prohibited from dealing in the US dollar. So there's been numerous banks that were prohibited. Basically, like we've always said, if you play by the rules, sign up to the platform, provide the data that they need for international compliance, local standards, international standards, if you will, and then start doing business. If you don't, you're probably not going to be doing business. So it says the company will work on developing practical solutions to reintegrate these banks into the Iraqi international banking sector, in addition to improving the level of banking procedures in line with international standards. And basically, what are they going to be doing? They're going to facilitate the process of establishing direct banking relations, improve the quality of services, of course, to what? To serve the Iraqi economy. And this company is basically starting to do its work in the coming period, whatever that means. But we already know that they've already done a whole bunch of this stuff. So anyway, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed this weekend, our show today. because it really is powerful. It's important that you understand that all of these things we bring to you from what they tell us in the news, and things that we get from a little bit of from the locals. You have to say, wow, people are getting really excited. People in Egypt and other places like Tunisia are talking about expectation of change. They're talking about expectation of change in Iraq, and people are seeing it. And then obviously what they're telling you about internationalism and compliance, international standards, the 40 banks going electronic. You can see what we're talking about is actually happening. It's not a scam. It's far from it. And one of the things I have to laugh about, this guy that did this, whoever, guy, girl, whatever, did this piece on Scam Alert, doesn't take into consideration of all the electronic platforms, doesn't take into consideration all the other than oil revenues, the tourism, all of the different things, okay? Just doesn't do it, and sadly, because it's probably going to hurt some people. So anyway, I think the business news should be embarrassed about that, to be honest with you. But anyway, talk about it later, and you guys enjoy. So please, if you like, hit that subscribe button, smash it down, make sure it works. And then we'll see you soon. Thank you very much, everybody. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much, and have a great day.